I don't think the Blues' biggest problem that they're going to have this season is going to be just the defense. This is all coming up here on Locked On Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Blues your first listen every single day here, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. My name is Haley Taylor Simon, and I am your host of Locked On Blues. Behind me, you can see my co-host Stella, who is my cat. But overall, we have a fun episode today. Do not set high expectations for this upcoming season, and I will elaborate on what I mean by that. I also don't think the defense will be the main problem again. So come towards the end of the season, I think that another problem will occur, and it just won't be the defense. And then, of course, Blues History Minute on this day, one of my favorite summer segments, where we take a look back about some St. Louis Blues history and we can have nice discussion on it. Now, one thing that I will say is on yesterday's episode, I asked you what you thought the main problems that the Blues had. And the amount of responses that you gave me just showed how much you do care about the team. And you wouldn't have given me those responses if you didn't care about your St. Louis Blues. So I just want to thank you because I am a huge Blues fan, right? And I am excited for the season. I miss hockey. September is tomorrow as it is August 31st today. But I think setting expectations and knowing what the Blues will be getting themselves into this season is going to help me a lot more than I was last season. Last season was a ball of frustration. And evidently, I am going to be frustrated this upcoming season. I don't think that any normal person is going to go into a hockey season saying, I can't wait to be annoyed. That is impossible. But what I do think is possible is just to have some more realistic expectations. And I'm doing this to prepare you and myself as to how the season will be. So the newest addition to the St. Louis Blues is Kevin Hayes. And while Hayes is a center, shoots right, as I've said, he is not going to fix the team as he is 31 years old. He's had a lot of NHL experience. I just personally think that he is just kind of one of those neutral players in a sense where he's good offensively, he's all right defensively, and he is not going to hurt the Blues, but he's also not going to tremendously help the Blues. In terms of centers, obviously Braden Schenn, that's going to be your first line. So I say, this is my prediction, Braden Schenn will be the first line, Robert Thomas will be the second line, and give me Kevin Hayes as the third line. And then in terms of a fourth line, I think it might be Oscar as your fourth line. Or it could be Oscar third and Hazy fourth. It could be switched. I'm not sure yet. It will all depend. When we look at the wingers on the team, obviously when you look at Sammy Blais, you see him as a third or fourth line guy. I think he's actually made a lot of improvement, and I am actually very happy to see that as he has developed tremendously for what he was. And I'm not saying that he was ever a bad player. I'm not saying that, but I think he has improved. Kapanen is an interesting guy. I mean, he's one of those players where you could really put him on the first or second. It just depends. Obviously, Jake Neighbors are going to want to keep him first or second. This is the problem. A lot of the wingers, right, they're a lot older, and that makes me hesitant. I hate switching up lines and making it so dramatic, right? But when you look at the common denominator of Torpachenko is 24, which is a good thing. And then you have Neighbors. I believe Neighbors is either 20 or 21. But off the top of my head, the rest of the guys are in their upper 20s or 30s. And that to me just isn't good. You want your wingers to be younger. You want your wingers to have a lot of speed, mobility. And it just makes me a little bit nervous. So that's why I'm setting the expectations to the way that they are, just because I know how this game goes, okay? So it's not good when your wingers are all kind of getting a little bit older. Here is my least favorite part, defense. Now, this is a positive. So Mr. Colton Paracco said that he sees himself continuing his journey with St. Louis for a long time, which is good. He is 30, so that's probably going to be a couple more seasons. So it's nice that he wants to end in St. Louis. But then for I think it's Berzuzzo. He is, I think, 34 or 35. He's older. So it is possible to play up until that age on defense. But even a Torrey Krug, he's in his 30s. A Nick Leddy, he's in his 30s. A Justin Folk, he's in his 30s. Did I get everybody that's in their 30s? No, Scandella. He is in, oh my gosh, I screamed really loud. He is in his 30s. I know that for a fact. Um, let's go think about younger guys on the defensive. I mean, Tyler Tucker, but he's not gonna be. Oh, I always mess up his name, but Tuca, Babatuka, whatever it is. He's young. Other than that, they're all older. I don't know. Okay, and then goalies. I mean, we have Benner, and then we're gonna have Joel, so I'm not worried about that. But off the top of my head, I'm like, this is an old team. The Blues are not a young team by any means. And this is why you cannot set your expectations high whatsoever. This team, this team is old. A lot of old heads on this team. And of course, the one move that you made this summer, you got another guy in his 30s. I think I'm not a math person, but I think if you were to find the average age of all the guys, you like add it all up and then you divide it by the amount of like players or whatever. I truly believe it would come out to 30 something because or maybe like 29, because almost every single guy is in his upper 20s or 30s. And this is what I'm saying. What is Army doing? That, like, I think I have to Google this right now because I'm actually kind of bothered by this. Which NHL team has the oldest average age? Because I'm telling you, it's going to be the Blues. Oh. It was actually the Penguins who averaged 31. Let's go see. Where is St. Louis? Okay. The Blues average was 28.7. The average in the whole entire NHL was 27.65. Okay, a lot of teams have that 27, it looks like, but the Blues had 28. So, like, I don't know. That's not as good. Oh my gosh, we were one of the oldest teams. I was right. So it was the Penguins, then Capitals, Tampa Bay, Avalanche, Flames, Blues. We're the sixth oldest team in the NHL. I was right about that. I told you, I knew that that wasn't normal because every single player that I was thinking of was older. And I was like, oh my gosh, this team is old. That's crazy. Wow. In oh my gosh, the Blues were worse. The Blues were the fifth oldest team in 2022. Ooh. It's not good. It's not good to be known as an old team. It's not good. And I'm not calling 28 or like 30 old in like real life, but in hockey life, like that's kind of getting old. Wow, I was right. That's not good. That's not good when you're more used to your players being young. Like the New Jersey Devils, their average age was 26, which is really good. That's young. It's good to be like average age of 27 because it means that you have some younger guys pulling back the older players. But to be average in a sense of your upper 20s and 30s, not that good. And yes, I classify 27 as like mid 20s. Okay. So, now you know how I feel about my whole age thing. Get ready for the NFL season with incredible offers from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get 200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Plus, all customers who bet $5 will get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Now is the best time to join FanDuel, the app that is easy to use, and you can bet on everything from spreads to player props and more. So visit fanduel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season with an offer you won't want to miss. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. It is exciting that football season is around the corner. And in football, just like in hockey, you have offense and defense. And for St. Louis, I don't think defense will be their biggest problem after this season. Boom, that transition. But seriously, I really don't. I was talking about not setting high expectations for this season, and I explained why. But I think after the season, it's going to be, and this is a bold prediction, so boom, 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 bold prediction take. I think that a lot of the guys that are currently on the team will not be on the team, and there's not going to be a lot of veteran leaders on the team, as I mentioned, because they're getting older. I don't know the longevity of hockey. I'm not a hockey player, but what I do know is that it is one of the most physical sports that you can play and participate in. And when I see guys climbing up there in their 30s, and goalies are the one exception, it does make me a little bit hesitant to say that they're going to be on the Blues for a long time to come. I I think after this season, the only reasonable thing that Army can do is just make this team younger. Make trades, do something, but you need to just keep this team younger so then these players can develop with St. Louis and can continue to be successful. And I don't know if that makes sense, but let me explain it like this. The New Jersey Devils are a very young team. They're a team that is young, and over the course of the past couple seasons, you have seen the Devils take off. You've seen them play really good hockey. And it's because these guys start young and they continue to grow with the team. While we do have some really good draft picks, I say draft picks, in Otto or DeBoer, um, it it's an interesting concept, right? To think about the fact that the Blues' success really came from a compilation of players that just wanted to win the cup. And after that cup win, it just seemed like the momentum went down the drain. And I've said this before, but the younger your team is, the better you're going to be with key veteran players. You can't have a team that's just young. That's impossible. But you can have a team that is young with those players and you can draw success. This offseason, I mean, I don't want to say I was that surprised, but I was a little surprised that Army didn't do more to get those younger players. I felt like, and as a Blues fan, you definitely left last season with a bitter taste in your mouth. It wasn't like that loss to the Stars was like, okay, On to next season, it was like, okay, this really sucks. This team isn't fun to watch. I'm still going to watch them because I love them, but this sucks. And that's how I felt. And it's been very disappointing. This entire offseason, especially hosting Locked On Blues, I felt like I needed to keep an optimistic mindset because I am not going to be that person that comes on here and is completely negative. But I'm also not going to come on here and be unrealistic with you. Defense, sure. We can blame the defense. We can blame the lack of chemistry. There's so much that we can blame as a fan base, as an organization. But instead of blaming, look for solutions. Look for ways to improve the team. And I think overall, if I were Doug Armstrong and I said, all right, what is the first thing I want to take care of? It would be getting younger guys on defense, first off. I think right now the offense is the least of their worries, but I think just getting those younger defenders is going to make a huge difference on the ice. I think getting some younger wingers. I mean, I talked about the wingers that the Blues have, and off the top of my head, most of them are older. And I think the centers, it's fine. I mean, Robert Thomas is my A1 day one. Nothing but love for RT. But for the other guys, I mean, they're getting older. So I think it's not a crazy thing to say, all right, let's not overwhelm Army. Let's go take care of a couple things first, younger defenders and some younger wingers. And I think when you make the team a little bit younger and you kind of gradually add those players in, they're going to do so much better. And I was actually, like, oddly enough, thinking about the Golden Knights. I know we are not in the same division. Like, what are we doing? Same conference, but. And I think with the Golden Knights, the interesting thing is that none of them fit well together, and they ended up being really successful. And I'm like, wait, is this play about us? Because the year that the Blues won the cup, nobody thought this team, fit well. So I think it's doing those things that are a little bit awkward, getting players that you would never think would wear the blue note or would mesh with some of the other guys and see how it works out. In sports, chemistry plays a huge, huge, huge role. If your team does not have good chemistry, then you're not going to be successful. And I'm not starting any rumors. I'm not saying, Justin Folk hates Bennington. I'm not saying that. And that is not true. But I'm just saying, as an example, it's like anything in life. You have a job and you have somebody that you work with. Maybe you work well with person A and not person B. It's not that you don't like person B, it's that you just work better with person A. So, unlike some other individual sports, like golf, hockey is not one of them. Hockey is a sport where you really need to depend and have that trust within your teammates. If you're making a pass, like a backhanded pass, you need to trust that your winger, that your center will be there to go get it instead of the opposing team. And then boom, that's how a breakaway happens. And then they score a goal and you're down 2-0. Like, you get what I'm saying? So it's one of those things where you need to be realistic about this team. And I think these two topics, I really like that today I talked about this because I think that my first segment and my second segment, they really go well together because setting your expectations at a realistic level and talking about the defense and the problems that the Blues have, that goes hand in hand. And I think that being a Blues fan, there's so much to be grateful for. There is so much to be excited about with these young draft picks. But at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and say that this isn't frustrating hockey when it is absolutely frustrating, infuriating hockey. And I wouldn't be doing this podcast justice if I didn't talk about how I feel and about how you feel, because you let me know how you feel. My everydayers comment on my videos, you tweet me, you let me know how you feel. And I'm going to talk about that because come, late September, October, when season begins, it's going to go like a roller coaster. We're not going to be able to have these kind of conversations. It's going to be okay. I'm not going to say that. I almost. Ugh, I'm mad. I'm going to say I'm mad. Before I give you to my last and final segment, which is Blues History Minute of the Day, I want to let you know that you can follow me on Twitter at Haley Simon, or you can follow Locked On Blues at Locked On Blues. I love Twitter. I'm a huge Twitter person. But if you're not on Twitter, which is completely fine, you can also follow us on. Why did I say follow? You can subscribe to us on YouTube or wherever you're listening to your podcast. Wow, I kind of just zoned out for a second. I'm just huh. My cat has been sleeping all day, by the way. If you want to get to know me a little bit. Where is she? Oh, here's I was like, where's co-host? So I think for my cat, come hockey season, I'm gonna get her a little St. Louis Blues sweater. But she doesn't like wearing clothes, but I was thinking about it, and that'd be really cool, when she would sit with me while I'm doing my podcast and you can see it. Okay. So today's Blues History Minute will be bounced off of last episode's History Minute with the Blues prototype sweater, and it got me thinking about something. I asked you on Twitter, would you wear this? And a couple of you said yes. And I thought it was an interesting thing. And the response I got was that it was a huge part of Blues history. And for that reason, I respect it. I think that it is a cool resemblance of the St. Louis Blues and how the Blues formed. And while I don't like where the blue note is placed, what I can say is that it is so cool in 1966 that this historic prototype sweater was released, and it started a beautiful hockey team in St. Louis. And I tend to be somebody that I'm all about nostalgia, right? I wasn't born in 1966. I was born 30 plus years later. But what I can say is this, though, is that the amount of history that St. Louis has had is astonishing. And I am forever grateful to be a little part of your experience with the St. Louis Blues, an organization that I always loved growing up and an organization that I will continue to love. But it is interesting. That is a really valid point. Well, I didn't like how the prototype jersey or sweater, my bad. I didn't like how it looked. That is a really nice point and a sentimental point that, hey, it's really not about how it looks. It's the fact that this is a major part of history for the Blues. And I thought that was a valid point. Now, I don't know if I would be rocking it well, but I can respect it. So that was my little history minute. It's kind of hard sometimes in summer to find some solid history minutes, but I love talking about these type of things, especially in the summer and the off season. Tomorrow's episode, I will be joined by a very special guest. I will be talking with somebody that has our former captain. No, it's not anybody from the Golden Knights. Don't worry. It is Miss Ann, who hosts the Locked on Predators podcast. I really got you for a second. You were like, oh my gosh, Locked on Knights. I love those guys. I love Tony. I'm sure this season I will do a collab with him. But I think it will be interesting to talk to somebody that is in our division with a former player of ours who played a huge role. So I'm excited to talk to Ann tomorrow. So that will be my first collab, by the way, on Locked On Blues. I know I have been hosting this podcast we're coming up on 4 months. And I love just being I'm a talker. And I was like, yeah, during like this season, I'll have guests on. And I'm like, you know what? Let's talk to some other people that cover other teams in the, division, especially. I'll be talking to the Locked On Chicago Blackhawks soon after I kind of called them out of my podcast the other day. But I think this is a good way for you to get more insight on these teams since they're the experts on these teams. And I have nothing to say about them. I saw them in Florida with my brother. It was like the two most random teams. And then I'll end this. I went to Florida. My brother lives out in Florida and he lives by Sunrise. So I was like, oh, like I miss hockey, because one naturally says. And the two teams obviously were the Panthers and the Predators. And I ended up, because like nobody really goes to Florida to watch hockey. So we ended up going all the way like right next to the bench of the Predators. And it was like, I guess, cool, but I could care less about the Predators. I'm like, whatever. So tomorrow will be fun. And until then, how I end every single episode, you know the drill by now. Let's say together, let's go Blues.